Good evening, and thank you all for coming. It's a pleasure to have all of you to kick off our 14th annual conference, which is on the topic of industrial policy. I'll just say a few words before handing it over to the first session. Industrial policy has gained more prominence in recent times, but I think if anyone looks at the history of Okay, I hope that stops. If you look at the history of economic policy, I think it's fair to say that all countries have been running industrial policy in one way or the other. They just haven't called it such. So in that sense, it's not a new subject at all. The important question is not whether you should have industrial policy or not, because as I said, every country has been running it one way or the other. The right question is, what is the right type of industrial policy? How should we even think about it? When we should do it, when we should not do it? We certainly know of examples when it has failed miserably, if you were to take Soviet Union as an example. But we also know of cases where countries have been able to grow tremendously quickly and the state was actively involved, the case of China being perhaps the most prominent one, obviously. So I think it's a fair question to ask, how should we think about this problem, both conceptually and in terms of understanding and learning from the history of other countries. That's what we're going to try and do over this day plus that we have. The way the conference is structured, we are going to break up this question into thinking about that question from a developing country context. So if you're a poor country right now, how can you think of strategizing on industrial policy to grow faster, to catch up, to converge? Again, China is an important recent example in that context. So we are going to have one session that is devoted exclusively on China, what we can learn from China in that context. But then we are going to have a second session that is going to focus more generally on this development industrial policy question, thinking about the global south, what they can do today to, again, design their industrial policy. And finally, we'll talk about our own home, which is the United States, and think about this question of industrial policy, again, something that has certainly gained more prominence within the policy making inside the US, from AI to chip manufacturing and so on. How should the US, because it's in a very different situation than a developing country that is trying to catch up. The US certainly sits at the frontier of technology and sciences. So the question of industrial policy should be and is very different from the US perspective compared to other countries in the world. So that's sort of the menu on the table for us. I certainly look forward to hearing all the speakers who have graciously agreed to speak with us. I just want to, before I open up for the first session, I just want to thank a few people who have been played a very active role in making this possible. First of all is Kyle Chan, my colleague here at Princeton. He works in this area, so he was sort of the first name that came to my mind when we were deciding on how to organize this conference, and Kyle has certainly done the lion's share of the work in putting the program together and sort of bringing everybody on board. And then from the JRC Center itself, Pallavi Nuka and Nancy Turco, they have been obviously the key to making it all happen. And last but not the least, Mitch Julius, whose generosity sort of brought us all together so we can do these things and many more, much more. So thank you, Mitch, as well. A special thanks to all of our speakers. We have a wonderful group of speakers, and this year we have an excellent list of panelists and keynote speakers, so I think you'll all enjoy the proceedings. So without further ado, Kyle.